Hey everyone, this is Jeff. This is a demo video for After Effects shape layers. It is going to be part of a series of videos based on the effect called drip. It's going to be about making a wipe that kind of wipes from one composition to the next. This particular video is going to be about working with multiple shapes on a single layer and what that advantage is about. I do actually have some finished elements here because I think it starts to get a little labor intensive, and I think you just kind of want to cut to the end once I start to the labor part. It's kind of like how Martha Stewart has the lasagna in the oven as she's cooking. So at any rate, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start with the idea here is that we're going to have a series of shapes that are coming down, and we're going to put them all on one layer so that we can move them both individually and all together. So first what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a shape layer. And I'm going to create a shape layer with the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm just going to go about like this. And the idea is when you're repeating elements, you really want to get one element down right. So as you repeat it, there's the least amount of changing that you need to do. So you can see I have my other ones up here ready to go. I'm going to make sure that this rectangle, its fill is black. I'm going to double click. And the shortcut for black here is 0, 0, 0, 0, or 6 zeros. Now this, I did a rounded rectangle tool, so you'll find in the, let me turn my highlight, you'll find in the path section a roundness function. And so right now the corners aren't very round, but if I move it in, you can see it's going to round them, so it kind of looks more like a pill shape. And this is, I want this to kind of go off the screen eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and change the size to be, oops, it's linked. So I'm going to unlink it and change the size so it is big enough that I can kind of drip in and drip out. And so what I'm going to do is actually move all of these guys. I'm going to duplicate them and put them all within the same layer. Now, actually, I'm going to go ahead and start them since they're going to be off screen. I'm going to go ahead and start with its position. Remember that X position is, the first one is X, meaning is horizontal. You get to the mountain before you climb it. The second one is Y, so I'm going to go ahead and move this all the way off screen. And I'm going to go ahead and put a keyframe there because I am going to play with positions a lot. So that means they're all kind of ready to go. Now this time, instead of duplicating the layer, I'm going to select the rectangle and I'm going to duplicate it. And duplicate is, of course, Command D. So Command D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, I made 7. That'll be fine. So I'm going to start, 1 will be on the left. I'm going to select 2 and use V or the selection tool to move 2 over next. 3, 4, 5, 6. I spaced these out. I'm going to hide these real quick so I don't select them. I spaced these out a little bit better last time, so I'll delete my 7. I'm going to select all these guys, and I'm going to select group select these rectangles. Actually, what I'm going to do is, since I'm going to move them all together, this is a good advantage. I'm going to go not to the individual rectangles, but to the overall shape layer, and I'm going to take its scale and move that scale down a little bit and move its position a little bit there. So that way they fit better. So just right there you can see how grouping elements, developing them all together, and then using the overall shape layer is a really nice way to kind of have part to whole relationships as you create and distribute elements. So I'm going to go ahead, and since all of these now are black and have a position, I'm just going to go ahead and start, and they all have a keyframe at the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and just have it, these are, you can see it's 10F, 20F, that means frames. So this is 1 second, because it's 30 frames per second. Since we're doing kind of a quick wipe, everything's going to be very fast. The whole thing should be less than 2 seconds, probably just a little bit more than a second. So I'm going to go ahead, and they all have, I'm going to make this one go about right there, and there on its second keyframe I can move it down. Oops, one thing I did forget to do in the setup is to get rid of the strokes, which is easy enough. When I adjust a layer, I'm just going to, a rectangle, I'm just going to select that stroke and delete it. Okay, so there's the first one. Now the second one, I want it to move a little separately. I don't want it to be at the exact same speed. So what I'm going to have it move a lot slower. So I'm going to have it go over here, and I'll delete the stroke. I'm on the rectangle position. Didn't take my keyframe, so I guess I'll have to put it in manually. And I'm going to have this start a little later and end a little later, and make sure that it is on that second keyframe all the way down. All right, so that's 2. 3, delete that stroke. Open up the transform rectangle. Let's make sure we have the position. This one will be the fastest. So I'm going to have it complete its movement quickest. So it'll be all the way down in the bottom about a ½ second. Run arrow 4, delete that stroke, position. Oops. I'm going to have this one also be slow, so I'm going to have it start the slowest. Delete that stroke on the last one. Did I actually get that? I don't think I animated that fourth one. This. There we go. So here we are on that fourth one. Let's make that go down. Transform. At a start position. At an end position. Move it all the way down. Have this one take a long time too. I'll have it start the latest. and rectangle. Transform that rectangle with position. And I'll have this one go pretty fast. As well. Okay, so now I have them all animated, so they kind of drip down. That last one I forgot to get rid of the stroke, but I think we're now good. Now what I want them to do is I want them to disappear on the other end by adding an additional element. And since I don't want to redo all these other ends, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to animate them all out as a total layer. So this shape layer right here, I can collapse all the rectangles, and now I have the full transform. So once they're all the way down here, I can add a position for the shape layer and another position to the shape layer, and then just have this whole cluster of them go off screen. Now, I like that, but I don't necessarily like this kind of jagged edge. So I'm going to create one more shape to hide that. I'm going to go ahead, and since it's going to have its total independent motion, I'm going to create a new shape layer. And the way I'm going to do this is by not selecting any of the shape layers and just starting with the pen tool. And I'm going to create a kind of a jagged edge like that. In the shape, I'm going to give its fill to be black. And I'll go back here and I'll notice when the shape layer, I'll go back to its thing right there. So I want this kind of angled thing, this wedge, to kind of be synchronized with this drop of the group of drips. So I'm going to go ahead and close this shape and add it to the total transform. So I'm going to add a position keyframe and go to the next. Oops, go to the next one and add another position keyframe. So I'm going to make sure this start position is off screen. And when it gets to the next finish position, I'm going to make sure that it goes off screen as well. I think I may need to make this go down a little bit further. So I'm just going to go with this and move it all the way down so it is off. Now, I'm going to put all this together and turn off my, I should get something like this. Now I think that needs some, maybe some spacing refinement, but you can see that it's actually a pretty consistent little effect that's going to allow me to wipe from one composition to the next. And ultimately what it does is it demonstrates how you can have individual parts be animated separately that are contained on a shape layer. And then the shape layer can move the group of those parts all together.